developing story here. A family is mourning the loss of a young mother and her unborn son. The pregnant woman was shot and killed in her DeKalb County apartment.
Somebody took a blessing from all of us, and we will get justice.
She had a whole life to live ahead of her. She was raising her children. She just moved into her first apartment by herself. She wanted to get married, settle down. She was going to church every day. She was doing everything a mother was supposed to do.
12 gunshots tear through a bedroom window at 5:45 in the morning. Inside, a 23-year-old woman is sleeping. Beside her, a 1-year-old. Beside her, a 3-year-old. She is 9 months pregnant. She is due in 2 weeks. She does not wake up. Her son, the one she planned to name Kyren, does not get to take his first breath outside her body. Somewhere outside that window, in the dark, somebody pulled a trigger again and again and again, aiming at a window they knew. A window they had been in before. A bed they knew the shape of. This is not a stranger's mistake. This is not a random act. This is the story of Shakiya Pridgen, a mother, a daughter, a woman 2 weeks from holding her newborn son, and the man her family says she once loved. Before we go further, I need you to do something for me. If stories like this matter to you, if you believe victims like Shakiya deserve to be remembered and not forgotten in a news cycle that moves on in 48 hours, hit subscribe right now and tap that bell. I'm not asking for a number. I'm asking because every single time one of these channels loses momentum, it's the victim's story that gets buried with her. Shakiya's 2 surviving children are going to grow up without their mother. The least we can do, as people who are choosing to sit with this story for the next few minutes, is make sure her name doesn't disappear. So subscribe, hit the bell, and let's get into what actually happened. Shakiya Pridgen was, by every account from the people who loved her, a woman who was building something. She had just moved into her first apartment on her own. She was raising 2 small children, a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, and she was about to bring a third into the world. Her mother described her as someone who went to church every day, someone who wanted to get married and settle down, someone who was, in her mother's words, doing everything a mother is supposed to do. This wasn't a woman in chaos. This was a woman who looked, from the outside, like she had finally gotten her footing. And just days before she died, her family threw her a baby shower. Friends came. Gifts were given. They celebrated the son she was about to bring into the world. According to her sister, the father of that unborn child, a man named Devin Anthony, had been present for most of the pregnancy. His own family had reportedly thrown a gender reveal party at his house. By her sister's account, everything looked, on the surface, nice. But here's the thing about true crime cases involving intimate partners. The surface is rarely the whole story, and in the days after Shakiya's murder, as her family began speaking publicly, a much darker picture started to take shape, one involving a past that should have kept Devin Anthony far away from her in the first place. The early morning hours of June 16th began like any other for the Pridgen family until the sound of gunfire shattered that illusion completely. Police arrived at the woods at Peppertree Apartments in unincorporated Decatur, Georgia, just after 5 in the morning, responding to a report of a person shot. What they found inside was Shakiya Pridgen, suffering from multiple gunshot wounds, rushed to the hospital where she and her unborn son would both be pronounced dead. Investigators believe the shots came from outside the residence, fired directly into the window of the bedroom where Shakiya slept. Not a break-in, not a confrontation inside the home. Someone stood outside, in the dark, and opened fire through glass into a room where they knew a mother was sleeping with her children. Think about what that means for a moment. This wasn't an argument that escalated. This wasn't 2 people face to face when something went wrong. This was planned in the sense that someone had to know which window, which apartment, which side of the building. Someone had to know that this was where Shakiya slept and that her 1-year-old and 3-year-old would likely be right there beside her. Her family would later say exactly that whoever did this knew the layout, knew her habits, knew exactly where to aim. By that evening, DeKalb County Sheriff's deputies, working with the U.S. Marshal Service, arrested 26-year-old Devin Anthony at a home in Riverdale, just outside Atlanta. He was charged with malice murder, feticide, aggravated assault with intent to murder, criminal damage to property, and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. He's being held without bond. According to Shakiya's family, Anthony wasn't a stranger. He was her ex-boyfriend. And more than that, he was the father of the unborn son who died alongside her. Her family believes this was an act of targeted domestic violence. Her sister, when asked why someone would do this to the woman carrying his own child, offered one possible explanation: jealousy, rejection, the idea that some men, when they feel a person slipping away from them, would rather destroy what they can't control than let it go. I want to be clear, that's the family's theory, not a confirmed motive from investigators, but it's the lens through which the people who knew Shakiya best are trying to make sense of something senseless. And then came the detail that turned grief into outrage. Court records revealed that this was not Devin Anthony's first time being accused of taking a life. In September 2021, a Fulton County grand jury indicted him for murder in the shooting death of a man named Ronald Barner. Murder, felony murder, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. These were the original charges he faced. But in November 2024, Anthony struck a plea deal. The murder charge was reduced to voluntary manslaughter under Georgia's First Offender Act. His sentence, 11 months to actually serve in prison, with 19 years remaining on probation. 11 months for taking a man's life. And it gets worse. In February of this year, just months before Shakiya was killed, court documents show Anthony failed a drug test, testing positive for THC. His probation was revoked for 60 days. He was ordered into anger management classes. And then he was released back out into the world. 4 months later, Shakiya Pridgen was dead. Her unborn son was dead. And her family was left asking the question that's now echoing across DeKalb County. How does a man already accused of murder once end up free on probation with access to a gun, close enough to a pregnant woman's bedroom window to know exactly where to aim? Shakiya's parents have not stayed silent about what they see as a system that failed their daughter before Devin Anthony ever pulled a trigger this second time. Her father, Paco Pridgen, said it plainly. He got a second chance. Shakiya doesn't get a second chance. And he shouldn't be allowed a third to do it to somebody else. He should have never been let out. Her mother, Verdina Scott, stood in the rain outside the apartment complex where her daughter died and said something that stayed with everyone who's heard it. I want the world to know that somebody took a blessing from all of us. Now, let's sit with the contradiction at the center of this case, because it's the part that makes it so unsettling. By her sister's account, things between Shakiya and Devin looked fine in the months leading up to her death. A gender reveal party at his family's home. His presence throughout most of the pregnancy. A baby shower just days before the murder, where, as far as we know, there was no public blow-up, no visible warning sign loud enough for anyone outside that relationship to catch. And yet, according to her family, this was the man who turned a gun on the window of her bedroom while she slept beside their unborn child and her 2 other kids. How does that happen? How does a relationship that looks, from a sister's vantage point, like it's going fine, end in 12 shots fired into a window at 5:45 in the morning? This is where psychology becomes essential to understanding cases like this one, because intimate partner violence rarely announces itself with a single dramatic red flag. It often hides behind exactly the kind of normalcy Shakiya's family describes. A gender reveal party, presence at doctor's appointments, the appearance of involvement. For some men, particularly those with a documented history of resorting to lethal violence when conflict arises, jealousy, and the fear of losing control over a partner doesn't look like screaming matches months in advance. It can look like calm, right up until the moment it doesn't. Her family's theory is that Shakiya may have been pulling away, that something shifted, something that wasn't visible to extended family, something that triggered a response in a man who had already proven years earlier that he was capable of taking a life and walking away from it with less than a year served. We don't know, and investigators have not confirmed exactly what happened between them in the days or weeks before June 16th. What we do know is the pattern this man left behind him: a 2021 murder indictment, a 2024 plea deal that let him out in under a year, a February probation violation for drug use, and then, 4 months later, a pregnant woman dead in her own bed. This case is still moving through the legal system. Devin Anthony has had his first court appearance. No trial date has been set. DeKalb County investigators have not publicly confirmed a motive, and much of what we know about the relationship between Shakiya and Devin comes from her family, people who are grieving and trying to make sense of an unthinkable loss, not from a courtroom record. So I want to ask you something, and I want you to actually sit with it before you answer. If a justice system gives a man accused of murder a path to freedom in under a year, who is actually responsible when he kills again, is it only him, or does the system that released him share some part of that weight? And when family members say someone looked fine, seemed present, seemed engaged, right up until the moment everything went wrong, how much should we trust the appearance of a relationship from the outside? How many warning signs do we miss simply because abusers know how to look normal in front of an audience? Shakiya Pridgen was 2 weeks away from meeting her son. She will never get that chance. Her 2 surviving children will grow up carrying a story that the rest of us are only encountering for the first time today. If this case affected you the way it affected me researching it, I want to hear your theory in the comments. What do you think really happened between Shakiya and Devin in the weeks before her death? And if you haven't already, subscribe to Unearthed Crimes, because there are more stories like Shakiya's, stories that deserve to be remembered, told the right way, and we can't keep doing that without you. Hit that bell, turn on notifications, and we'll see you in the next one.